How to illustrate it. Go to a supermarket, go out and buy groceries. Whether you're single, or a family, notice how packagings will always be either too large, so you get an excess that ends up going to waste, or too small, so you gotta buy 2 packs, and you again end up with a wasted excess amount of food that'll spoil and you'll end up having to throw away. It's a consumption society, yet it's rigged for you to overconsume so those on the right side of this game get to enjoy bigger profit margins. But not everything gets sold, and so these supermarkets have an excess of stuff that spoils themselves. They gotta deal with that. So what do? Toss it. Throw it out. Donate it to Goodwill? Oh, but you see, that ends up costing us for cold storage, logistics, loading labor, etc. So this is the argument they present to defend this morally void way of doing business. And you have people working in these supermarkets, who see this, and know in their gut this is wrong. So many homeless on the street, and all of this perfectly good food is being thrown in the garbage. I'm sure you've come across stories like this before online. People lose their jobs, because they chose not to throw away food products but give them to the needy. Corporations prefer to destroy so much, instead of using it efficiently, all in the pursuit of money. So today, every day, people are out there tossing perfectly good food into dumpsters, knowing full well what they are doing is wrong, yet, they need that job, they need that money income, and so they cannot afford to do the right thing. Doing the wrong thing can make you money, doing the right thing will cost you money. So what do people do when facing such a dilemma? Both from the viewpoint of the large corporation as well as from the normal, human viewpoint, this applies. It's a no-brainer. We all need money to be able to live in our society. You need a certain amount of it to be comfortable, and that on par amount is getting higher at a rapid rate, harder to come by. And thereby clinching down its grip on us all even harder as this progresses. That is the reality we are facing. Now, think about it, how does it all work, the Babylonian money magic? Where does money come from? It's called fractional banking and is perfectly legal as they all do it, but seriously, look into what is fractional banking, Google it quickly, then read on. That same trick the bank pulls when you take a loan. 99% of all money loaned by you is fictional. They never had it, they just write that amount onto your account and suddenly you owe them money that 99% never existed, just pulled a fat stack of cash from a toilet as if it were a white bunny, going tada. But that really is how the system works, literally so. And now you are stuck having to pay them a large sum they never had in the first place, and this is how a bank makes money. Now, let's take a step back, zoom out a little, and look at a country. Same thing as for you or me, the country goes to a central bank to loan its money, and now the entire fricking country is stuck having to repay a debt to a central bank, 99% of which said bank never even had to begin with, and this is how they get away with the largest, longest running heist in the history of our species. This is why you have to pay taxes. By the way, your country has to make payments on its debt to the central bank, and they have to if they want to continue loaning at the best possible rates, which is guaranteed to be the case. Now, if the countries of the world all owe a debt to their central banks, these banks are also tied somehow to their respective countries, right? You'd think so, but no. In reality, all central banks, every single country, with exception of North Korea and Iran, but other those two tiny shithole countries, the entire world is, for all intents and purposes, owned by the Rothschild banking family. Why do you not know this? The man is so wealthy, then surely he must be at the top of Forbes Fortune 500, hands down, no competition to his NR1 spot, right? This is true, of course, yet they choose to remain out of the spotlight, for obvious reasons. And so, myself, I can't help but wonder, this single, tiny central entity, effectively controls our world, decides what gets greenlit and what doesn't, all off camera and off the record, of course. But what is their goal? They are able to effectively set this world right, end world hunger, disease, poverty, social injustices, improve education and living conditions for millions. We could be having the utopia all of us are dreaming of for so many years now, in the span of, realistically, I'd say about 2 years. Very rough estimate, but it could all be done, virtually overnight, if these handful of people decided so. The questions then follow: why don't they? What's stopping them? What is their goal in keeping us all suppressed and underdeveloped like this? Let's take a little break here and change to a different topic for a bit: human evolution, and ancient aliens theory. Yeah, here I go, pissing away what little credibility I might have had up until this point, but just have a read before you are too quick to dismiss this stuff. Let's take a look at the work of Zecharia Sitchin. Of course, due to the sheer nature of his work, he is a bit controversial, and even I do not agree with the full 100% of all the many things he has said, but I do with the vast majority of it. Most of his work revolves around the Dead Sea Scrolls, mankind's very early recorded writings of a history otherwise lost to the ages, except he translated them himself and came up with a different interpretation than the version which got approved for publication in schoolbooks. The gist of it revolves around the history of how an ancient race came to our planet, found us, a bunch of primates, and eventually decided to speed up our evolution, so we could do the heavy lifting and toiling, and they'd get to sit back and reap the profits of our labor. If you want to get into the science of this, look into the puzzling evidence called Denisova Man and how it doesn't at all fit into the normal evolution theory as we were taught in school. Adding to that, look into the blood types of humanity, the impact of Rh positive versus negative, and think for yourself: if 15% of this world's people do not have monkey genes in their DNA, then where do those come from? Why is it you cannot intermix these Rh types? Ask a doctor. They will advise against having children unless you are both of the same rhesus factor genetic makeup. Some interesting stuff there too. But basically, these Anunnaki, as they are referred to, and not just by Sitchin, but by other religious antique texts as well, engineered our unevolved DNA, to be created in their likeness so we could be able to do their work for them while they got to hang back, chill out, and reap profits. They were management and they created us to be their workforce. I bet if Jeff Bezos was told he could fire his whole staff and just engineer a bunch of monkeys who'd work for food, he'd probably jizz his pants when thinking just how much his profit margins would grow. So yeah, if these ancient ones made us so we could mine the gold and rare earth materials and whatnot for them, is this not pretty much what is still happening to this very day? Sure, we don't wear a loincloth or toil under the scorching sun in a gold or diamond mine, well, most of are so lucky, but basically, we all have to work and meet a certain productivity criterion to generate sufficient money to support our existence, often to our dismay and not in line with what we want to do in life. The fruits of labor get stolen from us. This is called taxation and happens at every single transaction you make. Think about it. You work for a boss, he has to pay you, and he pays taxes on your wage. When you get your paycheck, however, they tax you again and take another chunk. Annually, they set a bar, and if your income goes over it, they come and steal another portion. And during the year, what little remains of your actual, effectively generated but stolen from income, when you buy something in a store, they still have the balls to tax you even on that. So in every single transaction you make, the government steals a portion, to be handed off as tribute to our alien overlords. Ahem. In modern times that would today be repayment of our global debt to the Rothschild banking cartel. And so you see, as far as we have come over the millennia since then, in essence we are all still working for the big masters with the fruits of our labor being stolen, our population suppressed, even violently in some areas of the world, and all of us, including our so-called leaders, are all operating while dangling from a slave chain called money, and at the end of that chain, without fail, you will find the Rothschild cartel. Now, if all this is known, and publicly so, for years even, then how, you may ask yourself, how is this still ongoing? How are these people not under arrest and brought to The Hague to stand trial for crimes against humanity, the most heinous ever in our known history, I might add? One of the ancestors of the Rothschilds once spoke the famous words: "I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls the British money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. Nathan Meyer Rothschild, 1815. This is another interesting note to be made about this banking cartel that has been funding both sides of every war since effectively Napoleon's days until present. Back then they had a messenger of their own returning from the Battle of Waterloo, a full day ahead of the official state one that would inform the leaders of the country. This enabled them to pull off the largest act of insider trading in the history of the stock market exchange system. Today, such feats would be highly illegal if ever proven in a court of law, and if ever brought up on charges, both of which are unlikely to ever happen to the family that essentially owns the world. Now, it's easy to keep going on like this, pointing at the many things wrong with the world, as it is right now, but instead, how about we start to look at what needs to be done? Where do we start? How can we begin to make a change and break free from this invisible slave chain we all wear currently? Let's start with the obvious, money. We will be needing a currency, and we can't simply disrupt the entire global financial system from top to bottom overnight. That would create panic, chaos, and would simply not do. Let's be smart about this. Step 1 is to flip off the Rothschild cartel, take back the control over our central banks, and inform them we, as a planet, have decided we don't owe them one more goddamn penny. This seems daunting, and no country in its right mind would step forward and announce this, unless they are certain the other 200 plus countries are going to follow suit, at the fear of reprisals by this bankster cartel. I am a Belgian, and funny thing, our national motto is exactly applicable here, Eendracht maakt macht. Union fait la force. Or English, unity makes strength, united we stand strong. So you see, if we could just put down our international petty squabbles over money or imaginary lines drawn in the sand, petty shit like that, and for just 1 minute, turn all of our heads the same way, face these banksters down, and declare we've had it, you're done. Game over. This world is no longer your slaves. Then we would have had the hardest part. With just that, we'd be 90% of the way there, to achieve a better world. So let's assume this comes to pass, then what? The world keeps on turning, that's what. You get up in the morning and go to work. Except this time, when payday comes around, no more taxation. Get the full amount your boss pays for your labor, no more government theft, as they no longer have this giant fictional debt looming over them, and are now in control of printing the money, so, no more artificial money shortages for things like education, healthcare, roads, public infrastructure. We'll still need to go to work, and spend money in stores. We would simply have some more breathing room with our financial situation, or we would see options opening up to us, to get higher education etc., that were previously impossible while under the Rothschild debt slavery rule. We would go to work, yet could start working toward a better tomorrow ourselves. Give people the funds to pursue their visions and dreams, remove the constant fear of hunger, poverty, sickness that were caused by the invisible slave chain of Rothschild printed money. Can you even imagine such a world? A world of humans, having a humane society? I can. I did it when I was about 18. And I've been wanting to live there ever since. Another thing that would naturally follow, is to stop our obsessing over intellectual property, because all that again stems from pursuing the Rothschild printed money like the good little productive slave that you are. Patents. Instead of the current system, just free the technology. Somebody wants to build on your work? Let them. Assist them. Cooperate, not compete. This way, you will both achieve more, in less time, and not waste energy and resources, again, money, in bickering over somebody else building something that looks like something you once did, and so you want money from them. It's really disgusting the way the current system is rigged, but this is the world we live in today. Think about it, large corporations, the computing industry, Apple, Samsung, Google, Microsoft. They all have huge legal departments, essentially vultures circling looking to descend on some unwitting innovator who wants to create something that even remotely smells like something they own the patent on. Also, they can squeeze out more money. Do they care they destroy a person's life like this? Sorry, that's just business. The way the world works is what you'll be told. So let's end this madness while we're at it. And this clears a path to the next bombshell. Free energy. Today, under Rothschild rule, the energy market is the biggest chunk of the world's economic structure. This is the crux upon which the entire current system is built. Now that we have removed the Rothschilds from the equation, there is no more reason for laws restricting free energy devices such as the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, Pub. L. 17, is a body of United States federal law designed to prevent disclosure of new inventions and technologies that, in the opinion of selected federal agencies, present a possible threat to the national security of the United States. Now it's interesting they state threat to national security. I'd assume the national economy would equally be covered by this, right? Considering the dollar is extremely intimately tied to the petroleum sector, the USA wouldn't want any inventor coming up with technology that would make demand for petroleum drop to next to nothing overnight, would they? Of course not, and there have been countless cases where such technology has been withheld from the world in this way. There have been clinical trials with 100% success rate able to cure cancer, yet the doctor, inventor was ridiculed by his academic peers, and this technology has been all but forgotten present day. After all, Big Pharma wants money, as do we all in a Rothschild-ruled world, and there is far more money to be made from treating a person the rest of their life, billing them every step of the way, than there is to be made from just treating in a single day and be done with it. Is this despicable? Yes. Is it true? Does this happen? Again, yes, and also, duh. But here's the thing, imagine a world where Rothschild money is meaningless. Let's resume the thought experiment above. What could Big Pharma achieve, if they stopped hogging patents, and cooperated, if they were no longer motivated by money, but by advancing science, medicine, benefiting mankind, which is what they are supposed to be standing for in the first place? But we were talking about energy. There is so much we could do, even with technology we are currently allowed to have, like solar. We could produce enough energy to power the world. The problems then come from, again, money, since these power lines would have to cross borders, imaginary lines in the sand, and so our governments under Rothschild rule would start bickering about money. Except they would no longer need to since we removed the Rothschilds. And suddenly this doesn't sound at all as impossible, does it? Now, combine all that you have read. These are not new concepts. These have been available online. You can Google all of this, like I did, and see for yourself. You don't have to agree on every single word I wrote here, but please just think about it. Talk about it to a friend and ask them to do the same. Henry Ford once said, "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." Except now, with the internet, we do. It's been dumbed down from the intentionally overcomplicated system they designed enough so that it has become clear to all of us, just how this scam we are all living in really operates. This utopian society I described here today? I first envisioned this at age 18, 19, something like that. We could be having such a world virtually by tomorrow, if we so choose. Yet I'm coming up on 40, and it seems better men than me, so far, have not been able to get things moving a whole lot in the right direction. So here's me, just a random nobody on the internet, no academic credentials of note, and yet just in my free time, I took to writing this. Am I powerless? As an individual, yes. I realize this fully, and it is for that reason I have decided to write this down, to invest my time and energy into this effort, to hopefully awaken more people to the reality in which we are living, because as I have said above, unity makes strong. When enough people are aware of these facts, are conscious of them, that is when we will see the change occur. The biggest hurdle to overcome, is to apply pressure to the world's governments to get organized in secret and collectively remove the Rothschild banksters from power and bring them and their likes to trial from the most heinous crime against humanity known to date. Our leaders have to unite, stand together. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. Ronald Reagan, former U.S. President. The idea of a common threat could do that. Except the threat is here, today, and comes from within, the root of all that is evil, money, and the root of said evil, for all of this world, is the Rothschild clan. Remove them, and their money enslavement system from the equation, and we would finally be able to make a world for humans where society can afford to be humane. I am serious, please spread this across the internet as much as you like. As impossible as this all sounds today, does it really, though? It doesn't have to be so by tomorrow. Let's make that tomorrow real. United we stand strong, even strong enough to reclaim control over our planet.